So that was a few clips of me daydreaming intensely. It took me a really long time to get into the correct headspace for this to be accurate, because first of all I had to set up the camera and then forget the camera was there. Then because I was forcing myself to daydream, it took me a long time to get into the correct headspace where I was intensely daydreaming. This is only a snippet of what I look like or what I experience when I daydream. Reason being is there are so many different scenarios that go on in my head. There are so many different scenes and so many different types of music and emotions that I feel when I'm daydreaming. What I was daydreaming about when I was daydreaming just then, the clips that you saw, the scenes that I was daydreaming about weren't very intense. So it was kind of more of a laid back kind of scenarios that I was in, and I don't always have very calm scenes. A lot of times I have very intense scenes, and the way I act and what I look like when I daydream during those times is a lot different. But unfortunately it's a lot harder for me to capture that, because I have to really be in the right headspace and have the right scenario to like record myself and get an accurate representation of what I look like when I'm in a really intense daydream, like, and it's not a calm daydream and there's a lot of emotions and stuff with the scenario that I'm daydreaming about. But that's hard to set up the camera because it normally happens very fast and I'm daydreaming and I don't have time to set up the camera before I'm like absorbed into the scenario. So it's really, I'm trying to get an accurate recording of me during really emotionally intense scenes, but it is difficult. I am trying to do that. So this was me daydreaming calm scenes. I daydream about these scenes all of the time. They're like my go-to daydream scenes when I feel like I need a fix but I don't have a scenario. There's just like roughly the same thing. I won't go into detail of what it was. I'll do that maybe in another video, because it'll be part of like my new series of, you know, what I daydream about. But yeah, I do want to point out that this was my experience. Like, just because somebody else doesn't look like I do when I daydream just then, the clips that you saw, doesn't mean that they're wrong, doesn't mean that I'm wrong, doesn't mean anyone's faking it. It just means like maladaptive daydreaming is such a personal thing, and remember that what we look like when we're daydreaming depends on the scenario that we're daydreaming about, how much emotion is in that daydream, how intensely we're daydreaming, where we're daydreaming, all of this stuff, and like who is in our scenarios as well. Like if one of my paras that I talk a lot to is there, I'm gonna have a full-on conversation, right? And it just depends on what the scenario is from what I'm gonna look like. So this was just one clip of me daydreaming. I don't represent everyone, and I don't represent myself all of the time. What you saw was just a snippet of what I look like 5% of the time when I daydream, because again, everything, it depends on what's going on in my head. It depends on so much. I hope this was informative. I really do. This was, I'm kind of scared now. I don't want to, because I know now the next step for me is to actually look it up and like look at the footage. My next step is to look at the footage. Like, that's terrifying, but we're gonna see. Anyway, you enjoy the rest of your day.